Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rourke with Vince Boddicker of Farmers Trading Company, and it was a red day in everything, both grain and livestock futures, seeing kind of some risk-off pressure. And, what was the big impetus there for the risk-off, do you think? I know the crude oil market imploded, so how much of a factor was that today?
You have to believe that crude oil was a pretty good factor in both the beans and the corn. We all know they don't correlate all the time, but most of the time they do. Some rains in northern Brazil over the weekend, better forecast for that coming. All of it, I think, is a contributing factor. Corn side also takes into effect. Not near as far done with harvest. It'll be interesting on Tuesday afternoon when we get the numbers to say, how far are we? Are we 40% or just where are we at?
South American weather, we talk about them getting rains, but how much of a help or how much rain have they actually gotten at this point? Is it really helping much?
Well, I think that becomes the big factor. And the trade always looks at it. When it rains, it's good. They forget that the soil type that they have, they probably need an inch a week just to make things maintain themselves. And if you've been as dry as they've been with rivers at record low levels, it's going to take some pretty good rains to keep it sustaining. We get it for a week or two and it goes the other way. We're right back on the drought monitor again.
Yeah, in soybeans, CONAB came out with a little over 166 million metric ton estimate for Brazilian soybean production. Was that a factor?
Definitely, that's huge. Record numbers as we talked about before, and the trade's going to look at that and say, oh, that's right, let's not forget about they could still get a good crop even though they have been dry.
It was a little disappointing this morning to see the NOPA crush figures come out. I think we had a record crush for the month, and really that didn't help the market at all on the soybeans, did it?
No, and I mean, it's great news and what you want to see, but so many times psychology is going to be that overriding factor, and I think that's where you're at right now. Oh my God, I thought this thing was going to hold together, but it's going to fall out of bed now, so let's sell. And you just kind of get that domino effect.
What's your thought as well about China? The government is throwing all kinds of stimulus at the market or at their market, and is it helping, or is there bigger economic problems there than we even realize?
I think initially the trade always looks at it as helping and getting started, getting things going, but the attitude of the consumer and the businessman is still going to be the end point of if it's going to work or not.
So we did see some export sales this morning. So as we get into some of these lower areas on the charts, obviously we're seeing some value by some of our export customers, aren't we?
Yes, and you're at value areas. I think everybody looks at it, and 6 weeks ago they were thinking, hey, we're never going to bottom this thing, and now they think, hey, it's a good possibility. If it's a bottom, we get a good pullback, maybe we need to try to put some coverage underneath our belts.
And you mentioned crude oil being a factor in the grains. Obviously it impacted the corn. Are we starting to see harvest pressure pick up there as well, Vince?
Definitely. Harvest pressure, we're just getting going, get a lot of beans getting done, so everybody moving to corn. Now the question is how much of that corn will move to town at harvest time. That'll make a difference on basis and where the trader thinks they want to be.
Yeah, what's your thought about how much farmers are going to store versus sell off the combine this year?
I think in the soybean situation with prices where they're at, they're going to sell most of the soybeans and try to store most of the corn. It'd be my guess.
Yeah. So the wheat market also lower. Was that technical selling, or were we taking out weather premium, or what's been weighing on that market?
I think technical stuff on that one, and also improving weather as we look at Ukraine and Russia and also into the southern plains, possibly getting some more rain this weekend.
So what do you think about from a technical standpoint here? Have we done technical damage to any of these grains right now? What are you watching?
No, I don't think so. Beans got close on Tuesday, but they did not do it. They get probably 95 cents off the high in those first couple contracts. Then you got to be concerned. Corn market, I think as long as you can stay above 395 to 397, you're okay. The wheat market, you could take that all the way down to about 570 or so before you really start getting concerned.
Yeah. Do you think the funds are back selling?
Good possibility. I think we look at some open interest numbers on Wednesday morning, and that'll help answer that question.
But they've covered a pretty big chunk of that massive record short position that they had on in the grains, haven't they?
Definitely. I mean, I can't remember the numbers from Friday's report, but they weren't short much of all in there. And I think even long in the bean meal, if I remember right. So yes, they've made a big about face. Now we got to remember that if they're going to keep buying and get long, they have to have a reason to do it. And right now, they do not have that reason with South American weather and Brazil improving.
So let's talk a little bit about the cattle market. We did see a down day in both live and feeder cattle futures there. Is that market just kind of correcting its overbought status, or is there more to it than that?
I think we were overbought. How far will the packer push this thing on the cattle side of things? We've been good. Box beef has been amazing the last 10 days, and you're putting on almost $14. That's $5 more than we put on at this time frame last year when we bought them. And I think it tells us that demand is there, because we're also moving the number of boxes, not just higher prices. Now the real question comes, is that packer going to continue to be willing to share some of his increased profits, or is he going to say, no, I'm not doing anymore, and the cash backs off?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think the market is already anticipating that maybe the cash is topped?
Very possible. And I think you've seen a lot of producers, when you got prices up in these levels, saying, hey, maybe I need to do something. I didn't the last time I was up here, and I'm regretting that. Still a lot of bullishness out there and a lot of good news in the cattle market. But as we all know, it can't go up forever. And how many hidden things are out there? We have an election coming up. Will that make a difference on consumer demand? Don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, so maybe a little hedge pressure there. And at these lofty levels, that certainly is advised, I'm sure. What about the hog market? We've had a big run there as well. The funds have gotten so long in that market. Is this thing just about ready to tip over or not?
I think you're very close to that. Maybe you can get a couple of more bucks in here if they want to throw more money at it. But you're getting to some of those levels. That's good. If you look at the December coming into where it was to when it took over today as lead month, you're about $7 more premium than you were last year at this time when it took over. So all that's going to make a difference. And again, yes, they have gotten quite long in here. And the real question, I think, going forward over the next couple of months, has USDA overestimated the kills that are coming? Because the last 3 weeks they have not been there. So is there less hogs coming, or are they still coming to town?
All right. Well, thanks for joining us as always. Vince Boddicker with Farmers Trading Company. That is Markets Now.